In the summer of 1963, a U.S. Air Force C-119 Flying Boxcar took off from a small airbase in California on what was supposed to be a routine weather reconnaissance mission. The sky was a brilliant blue, and the air was calm, promising a smooth flight. The crew of 4, led by Captain James "Jimmy" Roberts, was seasoned and confident, ready to gather crucial data to help predict an incoming storm. As they climbed higher, the crew admired the breathtaking views below. The rolling hills and shimmering lakes were a sight to behold. They joked and shared stories, laughter echoing through the cockpit, a camaraderie that only comes from years of flying together. But as the C-119 soared into the clouds, everything changed. The aircraft suddenly encountered a dense fog, enveloping them in a thick shroud of white. Visibility dropped to zero, and the instruments flickered erratically. Jimmy's heart raced as he struggled to maintain control. But something felt off. It was as if the plane was being pulled in every direction by unseen hands. "Jimmy, we need to get out of this fog," shouted Sergeant Mike Thompson, the navigator, his voice tense. "We're losing altitude fast." With all his strength, Jimmy pushed the throttles forward, trying to climb above the clouds. Just as they began to break through the fog, the aircraft jolted violently. Alarms blared, and the crew fought to stabilize the C-119. For a moment, they caught a glimpse of the sun piercing through the clouds, a fleeting moment of hope. But then, as quickly as it had come, the brightness vanished and the plane plunged into darkness. The crew felt a deafening silence wash over them, and the hum of the engines began to fade. Panic set in, and the radio crackled with static. They were utterly alone in the vast sky. Desperate to regain control, Jimmy barked orders, his calm demeanor masking the fear rising within him. "Check the instruments." "What's happening?" The crew scrambled to analyze the readings, but nothing made sense. The altimeter spun wildly, and the compass pointed in every direction but true north. Minutes felt like hours as they fought to navigate the void. Suddenly, the aircraft shook violently again. A piercing sound echoed through the cabin, like a voice calling from the abyss. "What was that?" whispered Corporal Lisa Adams, the loadmaster, her eyes wide with terror. Before anyone could answer, a brilliant flash illuminated the cockpit. For a brief instant, the crew was blinded by a blinding light. They felt weightless, as if time itself had stopped. When their vision returned, they were surrounded by a surreal landscape, a swirling vortex of colors and shapes, an otherworldly realm that defied logic. "Is this real?" Jimmy wondered aloud, grappling with the surreal experience. But just as quickly as it had appeared, the vision faded, and they found themselves back in the cockpit, the C-119 stabilizing in the clouds. Relieved but confused, the crew glanced at one another, unsure of what had just transpired. They quickly resumed their duties, determined to find a way back to safety. However, as they tried to communicate their position, the radio remained silent. No response, no sign of help. Hours passed, but they found no way to escape the cloud cover. Despair set in as they realized their predicament. They had vanished from radar, lost in the vastness of the sky. It felt as though they were in limbo, suspended between reality and a dream. In a final act of bravery, Jimmy decided to descend below the clouds in hopes of finding land. He guided the C-119 through the haze, praying for a glimmer of civilization. Just as they broke through the fog, the crew gasped at the sight before them. A small island appeared, surrounded by glistening waters, untouched and serene. They descended rapidly, but as they approached, the island seemed to fade, disappearing into the mist like a mirage. The crew exchanged bewildered glances. Had they imagined it? Were they losing their minds? As the fuel gauge dipped dangerously low, Jimmy made one last attempt to regain contact. "This is C-119. Requesting immediate assistance," he shouted into the radio. But all they received was the echo of their own voices. In that moment, a calm acceptance settled over the crew. They had fought valiantly against the unknown, but it was time to embrace their fate. They held hands, forming a bond stronger than the fear that had gripped them. With a final deep breath, Jimmy guided the aircraft into the clouds one last time, surrendering to the mysteries of the sky. The C-119 vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of the brave crew that had embarked on that fateful journey. To this day, the disappearance of the C-119 Flying Boxcar remains one of the most haunting mysteries in aviation history. Some say the crew still roams the skies, searching for a way home, while others believe they found a hidden realm beyond the clouds, a place where time and space converge. And the stories of their adventure live on forever. In the summer of 1963. A U.S. Air Force C-119 Flying Boxcar prepared for a weather reconnaissance mission at a small airbase in California. The sky was a brilliant blue, and the air was calm, promising a smooth flight. The crew of 4, led by Captain James "Jimmy" Roberts, had been through countless missions together. Each member brought a unique skill set, but what truly bound them was their unwavering friendship. The crew. Captain James "Jimmy" Roberts, a seasoned pilot with over 10 years of flying experience, Jimmy was known for his calm demeanor and exceptional decision-making skills. His passion for aviation began at a young age when he watched planes soar overhead. He was determined to explore the skies, and nothing could deter him. Sergeant Mike Thompson, the navigator Mike, was a meticulous planner, always studying maps and weather patterns. He often provided comic relief during tense moments, lightening the mood with his jokes and anecdotes. His dry humor kept the crew's spirits high, even during grueling missions. Corporal Lisa Adams, the loadmaster Lisa, was the heart of the crew. She was fiercely dedicated and took pride in her responsibilities. With her quick thinking and resourcefulness, she was often the go-to person in a crisis. Lisa's compassion made her the glue that held the team together, always ensuring everyone was okay. Sergeant Daniel "Danny" Cruz, the flight engineer Danny, was a brilliant mechanic and tinkerer. His ability to troubleshoot any issue made him invaluable in the cockpit. He had a knack for fixing things with whatever he had on hand, and his calmness under pressure made him a comforting presence. As the C-119 roared to life and lifted off the runway, the crew felt a rush of excitement. They exchanged light-hearted banter, reminiscing about past missions and discussing their plans for the upcoming weekend. Their laughter echoed through the cockpit, filling the air with camaraderie. As they climbed higher into the sky, the landscape below transformed into a patchwork of greens and browns. The crew marveled at the beauty of the world beneath them, but their awe was short-lived. As they approached the designated area for their weather reconnaissance, a thick fog rolled in, enveloping the aircraft like a shroud. Into the fog. "What the heck is this?" Mike exclaimed, peering out the window. "I didn't see this on the radar." "We've flown through worse," Jimmy replied, trying to maintain his composure. "Just keep an eye on the instruments." As the fog thickened, visibility plummeted to near zero. The instruments flickered erratically, sending a chill down Jimmy's spine. He felt a knot of anxiety forming in his stomach as the familiar surroundings transformed into an unrecognizable void. "Jimmy, we need to get out of this fog," Mike shouted, his voice tinged with urgency. "I'm trying," Jimmy replied, gripping the controls tightly as he fought to stabilize the plane. The atmosphere inside the cockpit shifted from laughter to tension, and the crew's expressions reflected their mounting fear. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the aircraft, causing it to shake violently. "What was that?" Lisa cried, her eyes wide with terror. "Just turbulence," Danny reassured her, but his own voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. "We can handle this." But as the crew struggled to regain control, the plane was jostled by violent winds. It felt as though the aircraft was being pulled in every direction by unseen forces. The sound of alarms echoed through the cockpit, heightening their panic. The mysterious voice. In the midst of the chaos, a strange sound emerged, a soft and haunting melody weaving its way through the cabin. It was a lullaby, familiar yet distant, echoing from some unknown source. The crew exchanged confused glances. "Is someone playing a radio?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. "No, it's just the fog," Mike suggested, but the melody seemed too intentional, too purposeful to be mere noise. Ace, the song enveloped them. The atmosphere shifted. Instead of fear, an inexplicable sense of calm washed over the crew. The melody resonated with memories, stirring something deep within them. It felt as though the aircraft itself was sharing its stories, inviting them to listen. "Do you hear that?" Danny murmured, captivated by the tune. "It's beautiful." "It's like a ghost," Lisa whispered, her eyes glistening with wonder. "Like we're not alone up here." But as quickly as the melody filled the cockpit, it was gone. The crew was plunged back into the reality of their dire situation, a stark contrast to the serenity they had just experienced. Hours passed, but they found no way to escape the cloud cover. The radio remained silent, and they felt utterly alone. Despair crept in like the fog that surrounded them. As their fuel gauge dipped dangerously low, Jimmy made a desperate decision. "Let's try to descend below the clouds," he suggested, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. "Maybe we can find a way out."